Hi, everyone. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd of 2021. How's it going, Rudy?
Crazy week, Sam. How are things going? You're having some lots of readings and a lot of stuff happening, huh?
Well, as many of you know, I had felt the push again to have another reading special for the Patreons. It's not like I have oodles of extra time, but I really feel that a part of us working together is me helping people individually untangle some situations before they hit the big time, or help them make some adjustments. And I would say probably like 80% of it is personal, but we don't want anything to take you off your track once you're cashing out of cryptos and want to start to do things for society and change your life. And so that's been going really well, but I did notice a huge uptick in nothing ever going right. Just as an example, this morning I had two readings booked, one at like 10:30 and 11:30, and the front desk had said that the repairman would be up at 9 a.m. to repair the ice maker on my fridge. I've been waiting like 3 months now almost, and they had ordered a part and this and that. So it was a different man that arrived, but he didn't arrive till 1:30 because apparently they had about 8 different units to go to who also had problems with their refrigerators because it's a new building, all these new fridges, and it turns out that 8 out of the probably 100, and I think there's out of the 122 there's 100 occupied, so
Oh
it's
yeah.
like 8% got a fridge that's malfunctioning. So anyways, it still ended up not being fixed. They didn't have the right part for what was going on with the refrigerator, so that didn't work out. But in the meantime, I'm waiting for these guys and I'm having to push the readings ahead. And anyways, it ended up all working out. But it's always stressful because you don't like messing with other people's times, no matter what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people. You guys know this. I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those devil made me do it people. People are always talking about, oh, it's demonic entities and it's dark entities are doing this. And it's like, no, most of it's just our own dumb choices and mistakes. But when you're doing light work, you do become more noticeable. And I noticed that was the correlation with I can only call them attacks because they take things out of your personal life from a long, long time ago, stuff you didn't care about really,
Hmm. Yeah.
that you were over, and they blow it out of proportion. They play it over and you have to recognize it and push it away. And it just gets annoying when you're doing it every day. Before it was a once in a while thing. Now it's like every day. And it's like, even though you know what it is, it's still annoying. Just like my dry throat from this heat is on, air conditioning is on.
Mhm.
It's just the time of year.
Yeah, I've had those where you relive something in your past, just some little event that probably the other person doesn't remember, and you're either embarrassed at how you handled it or how you made them feel, and for some reason you play that over and over in your head, and there's no reason to, right? It's long gone, but all those little thoughts will pop into your head when you don't need them to.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that when you are doing the light work, they want to try to pull you down and make you negative. But as long as you recognize that that's what's going on, like these things are just part of life, they're what happened. People have done things to you, you've done things to people. I mean, so it's like, reliving this stuff and, rethinking what you should have said or what you should have done. You're right. I mean, it's more about, learning the lesson from it. And if you can turn it around to be something positive, but, don't let that stuff drag you down. If you start doing light work, you have to know that even as soon as you start to show interest and start to learn how to translate the different knowings that you have and start keeping track of things, writing stuff down, because then you realize, oh yeah, this happens a lot more than it normally does. So I'm speaking to the potential mediums in the crowd who are like, hey, I think I have those knowings that Sam is talking about. I think I'm talking to limiting entities on the other side, but it's not in word language. I've only actually heard words a few times,
Mhm.
but most times it's what we call knowings, and you can get very good at translating it. And so I've been getting a lot of information about that during readings, because I've had some people say a few things about And it's usually giving me an out, if I don't get something. Oh, we know timelines can change and stuff like that. And again, I want to mention to people listening that, that is just an excuse for poor mediumship. If I'm wrong on something, it's because I did not translate it correctly. There is only one right answer, and I believe that I can be good enough to hit almost 100%. And as long as the outcome of the story is the same, that cryptos went up and, you only had to pick a few and you hit pay dirt and, it's all good, right? This is the story. And then we're getting more into micro and micro and micro, but we're measuring it and it's crazy accurate. And I'll tell you, I wasn't expecting that, but this is about pushing the bounds of what people like me can do. Because again, I do think that there are many people out there who can do what I can do. And I want to help them get to this point much quicker than what I did.
Yeah. And, it's even too, not so much that the timelines change, but that our expectation for a timeline might be, hey, I'm expecting this to happen this year, and it's going to happen 2-3 years later. So
the story still fits.
Exactly.
It's just things are not always how you think they're going to be. Even when I'm hearing, and this is interesting, just stumbling across the video on Cardano. I was literally cleaning off my Google Drive and found like the pre-Muant top 20, right? And I was like, oh my God. And then when I heard that if I only had $10,000, I could back up the truck and I'd buy Cardano. It's a good deal even at under 5 cents because it had been 2 cents just previously. That's when I had started buying it and put it on the QLab list. It was one of the must-haves. And it was the higher banks too, Stellar and Cardano. When people asked me how many should I get, I'm like 100,000.
Many as you can.
I was so sure about it, and I'm also so sure about it going to the moon. So that's why a lot of people didn't jump off at the same number of 50 or 60 cents. If they took some cream off, that's fine for them. But let's get into the woo-woo stuff because we've been talking a lot about cryptos. And I know we've got lots of interesting subjects to cover with Starlink and some of the great things that are happening in the world.
Yeah, so I wanted to look at, things we have to look forward to, not just cryptos, but technology-wise. There's a lot of negative doom and gloom out there that's always makes for good YouTube videos. But, we have a lot of exciting things happening right now. And right after our last meetup, I got an email to sign up for Starlink. And those of you who don't know, Starlink is Elon Musk's SpaceX company. They're launching rockets every, month or every couple of weeks, and they're putting these satellites in a low Earth orbit. And the idea is to have this constellation of satellites in low Earth orbit circling the globe to provide high-speed internet to remote locations. So this is a great solution if you are in a rural area. I'm thinking like Tinkerbell's out there in the middle of nowhere on her farm, or people that don't have good access. This is a great solution for them. And I'm in a place that has $65. I can get gigabit internet over fiber. It's awesome. But I signed up and I felt really good about signing up for it. And I was a little bit too excited about it. So I thought this might be a good topic. And somebody in the comments, Awoken Being Dreaming, says she just signed up for it in Australia and it feels right. So Sam, I want to talk a little bit about this technology and what you see could possibly happen with it, how it could drive some changes in our world. And you clicked on the link too. What did you think when you clicked on the Starlink?
Oh, I looked into it, put the address in for my beach house, which you can't get internet that's good enough to do live streams.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, the only time I can ever go down there is when I can do Zoom down there.
Yeah.
Because you can run Netflix and stuff like that. It's as high speed of internet that you can get. And you can't get the satellite either. I contacted the satellite company. They were like, nope, sorry, we don't serve your area. And I was like, okay, I guess I have to sell it then because I'm getting a place somewhere else anyways. And I just got to put that one on the chopping block eventually. And the fact that I can't get high speed. So I was excited to see that it was coming in 6 months to a year, they said.
Yeah, it's not portable yet, and that's, a lot of people think, oh, I could go in my RV and go anywhere. That's what I was hoping for. But the way the technology works, it's really interesting. They have the Earth, they have everything assigned to what they call a cell, and then satellites are assigned to pass overhead and serve that cell. So I'm going to be so many people that each cell can be served in. So even though I'm in a major metropolitan area, I still wanted to get it almost as a backup, and then also I almost had the feeling that I need to get it while the getting is good because with all these chip shortages we're seeing in the automobile industry, Sam, do you think there'll be a shortage to some degree of some of this internet equipment? Whether Starlink, I know you said you've been buying computers, but do you think some of these things might get delayed in rolling
Yeah.
out?
I've been trying to get as much as I can that sort of falls into that category.
Yeah, so some of the things I was thinking about in terms of, when you have a technology like this is that leapfrog technology. So think, cell phones in third world countries, they skip the copper wires going to everybody's house. There's a lot of things that this can open up when you have high-speed internet available globally and even across the U.S. So, Sam, let me just start with the U.S. Do you think any areas of the U.S. are going to really benefit or change from this technology? And what I think about is, like you have Wyoming, that's a very blockchain-friendly state that has said, hey, we're not going to rate, anything that like utility tokens, they actually defined them and said they're not, considered securities. They put some legislation in place. I think of places like Tennessee, low property cost, more rural, but that is cheap living. Are there any areas of the U.S. that you see benefiting from people being able to go live cheaply and still work and thrive and be connected to society?
Well, I know that a few years back, just when I started working on YouTube and attracting people with my information, there was a lot of people out there spreading doom and gloom and describing societal breakdown, a lot of Mad Max scenarios, that sort of thing. And I just couldn't praise America enough for its resiliency through a tough time that I saw that was coming, but not like Mad Max sort of. It's like, no, it's not, because there's future technologies coming. And that's why I got involved in cryptocurrencies, because it is one of the things. And this, I remember Dolores Cannon was talking about the great genius. And I was like, oh, well, everyone knows that's Elon Musk, the great genius. That's the one that we were waiting for. There's a combination of things that had to take place on the planet. And like them or not, these certain individuals, were chosen to complete tasks that bring about the Great Awakening. And that includes Starlink and the person who puts it together and all of these technological things. And I do think that we are on the cusp of a new type of transportation being revealed that will corner the silver market. I always said before that I felt like the silver invention, like I felt like gold, I had that as protecting liquidity, meaning so I could go anywhere in the world and I could take a Cougar around, an American Eagle, a gold maple leaf, and I can get money for it. No matter where I am in the world, it has value, right? A person will buy that from me. And that's how I saw gold. But silver, I was like, okay, well, this is a different duck. This is to do with the technological advances that are coming. And there's one in particular that has to do with transportation. And people are trying to sort of nail me down to it. And the best I could get was some sort of tubular subway system running on magnets, but there's something about it that's different from what we have now, as far as the speed and the logistics of the wear and tear go. And also it's much easier, to build tunnels than it ever used to be.
Well, let's cover that, Sam. So this is really like almost the Elon Musk show, because he has the Boring Company and they have tunneled through LA. And he had a good point that, even with earthquakes, underground is a much safer place to be because, the shock waves really travel on the surface. So right now they are developing something like that in Los Angeles. And I think years ago they showed a demo where you actually had a Tesla going through this tunnel. So Sam, do you think that it'll be automobiles moving through these tunnels in cities, or do you think it'll be some other like train type device that moves through the tunnels?
I can't get that detailed about it. I don't know if it's like individuals at a time get and step on it, and then they can as long as there's an opening, it'll stop. They can get on. And then but it goes like really fast, really far, so that you can get from one place to another, like within hours, like places that people used to get an airplane to.
Well, that was my next question is because right now, you think about the solution ideas to have it locally around these major metropolitan areas to bypass a lot of traffic, especially a place like LA, even, Arizona, Phoenix is getting that big. But will we see connections between major cities? So think Arizona to Los Angeles or Las Vegas, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah. And it'll be, and people won't really have to, police it in the sense that, the pods will be individual. So, it can be enclosed and people will say, well, what if you have like some guy who's, goes crazy on the train and, it's this long until the next stop and, you can't have a person. It's like, yeah, but it's going to be like individual pods or maybe something that you book ahead. A family of 4 is all in individual pods. So there's no,
oh, neat. You bring your luggage and you're just contained, no germs, none of that kind of stuff. Interesting. That's really cool. There's some, in the conspiracy world, there's been talk, obviously, about secret underground military bases in these tunnels that connect these bases all over the U.S.
No.
Does that exist? But this sounds like really what you're describing.
Yeah. No. Listen, yeah, sure. There are underground tunnels, but they're not really fit for what it is that we're talking about.
Okay.
Right. And also it's really important for it to be in a straight line.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Now, in terms of air travel, that was my other question. Is right now a bunch of us move through the sky in these giant metal tubes that go just fast enough not to fall out of the sky. Will that continue, or will we develop other methods of air travel? I like the sound of this underground thing, but do you think air travel still continues for a long period of time?
Yes, of course. I do believe that it will. But there will be many more people who have the car airplanes, so they just drive to the airport and then they take off and go to their next destination. And they'll clear off an entire airspace for this traffic. It's like you must fly between this and this if you're in one of those air cars, and you can't go any faster than this, which means, so that you can avoid, you can see somebody coming and avoid.
Yeah. Oh, neat. Yeah, because ideally, the more those become popular, the more electronics are involved, and the less people you have to rely on skill and training of a person. Wow, that's neat. All right, cool. Well, let's go on. I had one more topic I wanted to cover, and that is so energy technologies, solar batteries, fuel cells. And so the recent weather in Texas kind of showed us how vulnerable our energy infrastructure can be, and you have to have a good mix of things really to power your grid. And so years ago, I don't know if anyone remembers, back in 2008, there was a company called Bloom Energy, and they were out of California, and they put these black boxes at Google that were generating power, right, when Google was having their campus, and it kind of made the news, and they're called fuel cells. And basically, it's some sort of solid oxide fuel cell that uses natural gas. They don't burn it, but they essentially convert it to electricity. And this was supposed to be kind of a big thing to compete with the grid. And the idea was that you could almost be energy independent to some degree with these fuel cells. But it's something that really never took off. But, again, back to being off grid, having your Starlink, having a fuel cell. Sam, do you think there's going to be technology that enables people to truly be more energy independent in their homes and live off grid like that?
Yeah, I do think that that the government will become less involved. You know how the government has, they're, way too involved in everything. They're not supposed to solve all of society's ills. Sometimes it has to be solved by the community and, and an active volunteer ideology, I guess, in a society. I mean, it only becomes natural that once you hit a certain age and you retire, oh, well, you have another 10 good years left of, functionality where you can actually get up and go somewhere most days. Yeah. And, doing a volunteer work to help society is a really great way to keep people still sort of in the game, but not with the same type of pressure as, before when you're, trying to raise a family and pay
Yeah,
the bills and all that sort of things. There's something to be said about it becoming more relaxed. So I see that society will change a lot because, even though people will become more self-sufficient and individualistic, they'll start to have, better relationships with their neighbors and that sort of thing.
okay. Yeah, it really does take a community to be successful in anything that you do. This natural gas technology that these energy cells use. There's also a famous billionaire, T. Boone Pickens, was an oil man from Oklahoma. I think he died early 2000s, but he was pushing for natural gas technology, really in the truck fleet. And one of the things I thought was cool is he actually had a compressor at his home. Most homes, if you're connected to a city source system, you have natural gas. And it was, you could basically fill up your car with compressed natural gas from your house. It was a great idea, but it never took off. And this natural gas to power cars never really took off. Sam, do you see battery technology improving and really that is the future? Or do you ever see natural gas or anything else being used to power automobiles?
Well, isn't that interesting you mentioned about the natural gas, because my dad actually retrofitted an old car that he had so that it would run on natural gas.
Okay.
He was like MacGyver, man. It was crazy. He just did this for, I don't know, shits and giggles, maybe. I don't know. But
Yeah.
he was pretty amazing with things he would come up with. But it was very dangerous.
Okay.
He said the only thing that he worried about, he said, if you get in a collision from the rear end,
Yeah.
that tank, if that explodes, you're going to kingdom come. He says, and that was the problem with the natural gas. And you know what? It becomes about insurance because, even if it's like one in every, million people, that's still a lot of people. And an insurance company would be, they're not going to cover anything. So all roads lead back to insurance and liability and people losing their shirts for being stupid. And that's why natural gas in cars did not take off, because nobody wanted to. There was no technology that would keep you safe from a collision, explosion, like guaranteed explosion, because you're not guaranteed to explode just because you have gasoline in your car. Like they were able to mitigate that because it's a liquid, right? Whereas natural gas will dissipate upon like being released, and then if there's any sort of friction or whatever, well, of course that dissipation becoming already, by the time the spark reaches it, it's already quite wide and kaboom, right? So
yeah.
Anyways, more about natural gas than I wanted to know. Thank you.
But
From
that's
the other side, just literally, because I know nothing about that. So please don't send me stuff and say, Sam, like, oh my, unless it's like weird, that was right on, I'm in, what would a person be in to know about natural gas? Like
I don't know. I mean, it's just energy, but it made me think that there's a video I saw in Europe. They have a lot of buses that run on natural gas, and then those old cities, you can't raise a tunnel or something like that. And there are videos of buses, because they keep their natural gas tanks on top, going into these tunnels and exploding because the gas tank hits the bridge. So yeah. I had never thought about. That's a good point. I know in Arizona there was a push to retrofit cars years ago, and you got tax breaks, but that all kind of fizzled out, but makes a lot of sense. So it sounds like batteries will be the wave of the future. And you've mentioned that before, that you see batteries being able to do more and really power automobiles.
Yes. And then you're going to have these situations where a lot of people are not going to need their cars as much, because where you needed cars for before, for your road trips to go from one city, or, you live in this city and your mother lives in that city and you go to visit her every couple of months. Well, now you don't need a car because you'll just get on this system and go from one place to the other. And it moves so quickly. That's the thing, is like it's on magnets or something like that. So it goes like a couple 100 miles an hour.
Wow, that'd be awesome. Yeah, you could go up to Denver, visit my in-laws. That would be cool, not need a car. All right. Well, no, thanks, Sam. A lot of this stuff is starting to happen now. So while it's not in the future, it's really almost here now, and it'll be fun to see this stuff materialize. So, all right. Well, with that, let's get into the questions. We have about 16 questions for tonight. All right. Deb says, Sam, you mentioned that people from the other side can come up to you and have a chat with you and that they can really be an angel in disguise. Can both of you please talk more about this and maybe give an example?
Well, one of the stories I used to love to watch on TV were the stories that people would talk about that they believe that they had an interaction with an angel who presented as human. And I do believe by the grace of God that can be done in the 3D realm. It's only very special circumstances that can happen. I don't know the details about it. It just has to do with like the plan of things. It's just like, like me setting up this channel and then we all find each other and, you can say that was divine.
Mm-hmm.
It was an intervention. I mean, and we have like all this crazy stuff that sort of got me to this point, got you to this point, you know what I'm saying? It's just.
Yeah. There's something more at work that brought us all together that I did definitely feel that. So angels definitely can intervene then. That's interesting because there's a lot of great stories out there that you can read. Winner says, hi, Sam and Rudy. Love the show. Thanks. Rudy, I got a download about Elon's Starlink project, timing in with Nerds 23. Do you or Sam see Starlink as an alternative to mainstream communications or cryptos are involved, like a decentralized communication platform? Thanks.
Well, I definitely feel that Starlink is the link to the future as far as the Great Awakening goes and people having less government and having, it's just like the population of the world is going to separate from government, from finance, from the big tech that's controlling them. And they won't be able to do anything about it because our sheer numbers and our organization. And the thing is, Starlink will allow, for example, the poorest person in Africa to get a package that will allow them to, like Electronium, will allow them to pay their bill in Electronium. Yeah. So they could actually earn money selling. They could have a vegetable patch out back and sell their vegetables part-time, make extra money just by on their phone getting Electronium, pay their bill that way. Now they got internet.
Right.
And when you have internet, there are even like Fiverr. I guess I was reading that people, and I was just like, oh my God, that would be like a bonanza for someone in a third world country. Like some freaking little kid there, like if they press the like button, they get like 3 cents, because you pay $5 and you get like 1,000. So it's like for the $5. So there's 20. No, I don't do math anyhow.
But and even I think will it be smuggled into China? It's so small that you could theoretically, these places that don't have internet and can bypass the government restrictions on some of this.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify that I'm not for child labor. I'm just thinking about my 10-year-old who was like picking up dog poop because he wanted to make $20 to buy something that he wanted, and when little kids find a way to make a little bit extra money for pocket change in North America, for little kids in other parts of the world, that means they're going to get supper. And I'm pretty excited about that because it's not the best way to achieve the income security that you want to see families in third world countries achieve. But I think that we're on our way there. And that's what I saw for the future. That's what I was so excited about. And I was like, I don't give a crap that Western society is going to go through a little bit of a scary time. It doesn't matter. I mean, look what the third world's been going through. And I think that everything is going to even itself out in the end. And everybody who's listening to me, who's here hanging out with us, you guys all know what's up. You'll all be prepared. And not only are you in a great position for yourself, but you're in a position to help other people. And that's what I see happening for the most part, is that the reason why we're going to achieve more unity in the world is because people, so many of them, are going to need help. People who never needed help before, and they're going to, and they might have not been somebody who would have been helpful and kind, but then when they have somebody reach out to them who had no reason to do anything for them and help them out, but yet they did, and it just changes their mindset. And that's what I see happening in the world, is that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need help, but there's going to be a large number of people who will help. And that's going to be the cryptocurrency millionaires. There's just going to be regular people, not individuals who try to hoard billions of dollars and don't do anything to really help. So they just do like, well, symbolic stuff to say, hey, I'm a good person, right?
I formed a charity. Every trust fund person has their own charity, right?
I did want to say, did you guys want to hear from my son about what he sees when he sees? Because he's still seeing people like on the other side and.
Yes, and how he sees them. Dakota, tell us.
Yeah. Okay. Just a moment. I'll mute here. I'll give him a holler on the other side of the wall there. I told him he can't be on camera, but we can talk to him.
Okay. So Dakota, how do you tell the difference between how do you know the difference of when you're seeing ghosts or people from the other side versus real people?
I don't really know. They kind of appear to me the same. They get the same body shape as a human, but I guess ghosts and humans, I can't really tell the difference, but it's kind of just like a feeling, I guess. Like with people, I guess I get like an okay feeling, like, hey, this isn't gonna bother me. But with ghosts, it's kind of like a hey, I don't really it's hard to explain with ghosts, but I'm trying to find a way to explain it. A medium way, I guess.
Just a different feeling.
Like, it's in the medium point. I don't know if this thing is good or bad.
Okay. So you're kind of mute about it. It's sort of like when I walk in the room, you see me, and can you see through the ghosts?
No, I cannot.
Okay, so
sometimes
you can.
Yeah.
And do you think that there's a difference between the ghosts that you can see through and the ones that you can't, who appear like solid humans to you?
I don't really see any difference with them. Okay.
Wow. Do the ghosts know that he can see them?
Do the ghosts know that you can see them?
Probably. Or there's those people that are crossing over from, maybe they died a little bit ago and they're either visiting or trying to find the light or crossing over to the light.
Right.
And they probably don't know that I'm there.
Okay. So some people, you just see them crossing over to the light. You just happen to be like, oh, they're crossing over. They passed away. They're crossing over to the light. There they are. Yeah, I actually saw somebody. He waved to me as he was going.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that was a famous guy because it was on the news, right?
Yeah.
It's so weird that I'm seeing that man that I talked to for all of like 15 minutes on the Ocean's 13 after party. And so I didn't really know him. He was just someone that talked to me who, a producer or something. He was in his 60s. He had a heart attack. But he's just walking by and he's in like jeans and a t-shirt, which I didn't meet him like that. He was in a suit when I saw him, right? Or like a white, it almost looked like a leisure suit, but because it was warm, it was like a lighter color suit. But so he's just waving to me and he's walking by. Yeah, that's his story. I didn't know he saw them as so solid.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I always thought you could kind of see through them where they would be a little bit hazy. So that is very interesting.
Do you have some more information?
What about clothes? What kind of clothes do they wear?
Okay, so we want to know about the clothes that they wear.
Usually, I remember once in the shower, I was going to be saying the final countdown. And I was like, pretty much, I said in my head, hey, if anyone wants to come and watch me, then... Or, not really watch me, but listen me
sing the final countdown. Yeah.
And I remember seeing this girl. She had like kind of curls in her hair, and she was wearing old-fashioned stuff from like the
1800s or early 1900s, like Victorian.
Yeah, Victorian.
Okay. Kind of clothes that you would put on a dolly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In the hair you would have in a dolly where it's like curled.
The little curled, perfect. Yeah. So you saw one of the girls. Now, but the other people, you told me that story before where you invited them to come hear you sing the final countdown. So you were in the shower and you thought to yourself, I'm going to tell the ghosts that I'm going to be singing the final countdown later on and they can come and watch me perform. Is that what you did? You put the invitation out there. And how many people would you, and then people showed up.
Wow.
Right? I know it was weird. He was in the shower, but I'm like, yeah, I do a lot of talking to the other side when I'm in the shower. It's not like you're doing anything else. It's not like I'm making food and have to make sure I don't cut my finger off or, watching a TV program where I have to pay attention to the dialogue. I'm just in the shower. So it's funny. He mentions that he talked to them. So tell me about, was it about 8 people showed up?
No, because I thought of it as a movie theater. and they would show up, sit down, and whatever. And I'm thinking 10 or 20.
Okay. So it was quite a few people showed up. Now you said that a lot of them, though, you couldn't see their faces.
Yeah.
Their faces were blank. But did you see the clothes they were wearing?
Yes.
Was that okay? And what were their outfits that they were wearing?
One guy was wearing kind of like a tuxedo with a bow tie, and I'm trying to remember anybody else. Those are the people I've really like noticed.
Stood out.
Yeah,
the
stood
tuxedo, and then the girl who was wearing like the Victorian dress who had the curls. Now, could you see her face?
I don't know.
You didn't. Okay, so but what stood out was the curls.
Yes, and the dress.
And the dress.
And she looked about 10, not like 10 or 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, are those people who hadn't crossed over yet? You think that are still have they been in your town for a while?
Now, he wants to know if the people who attended, who took your invitation up, were they just people who hadn't crossed over yet, who were wandering around, or did you think there were people who came from the other side who were visiting, or a mix of everybody?
I think a lot of them were probably from people that were already over on the other side, because I don't know. Now, what I don't know is how time goes with ghosts, if time is even like a thing and when they pass away. But for me, I think that a person probably born in the 1800s wouldn't stay on Earth for 200 years.
Right.
But I don't know if time like applies to them. So right. I'm guessing some of them crossing over because the tuxedo was pretty new. It was all black. And it looked pretty new.
Yeah, like something you might see somebody wearing on TV that was on a program within the last 10 years or so.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And and they weren't transparent. You were.
Yeah, I could see them. Right.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks, Dakota. We'll have to think of more questions to ask you in the future.
Oh, and that lady from Arizona said, can they change their outfits? But I don't imagine you've ever seen anyone change their outfits. Or have you had someone come back who was in a different outfit than the last time you saw them?
The only time I think have you told them about Darkman?
Yes, I know about Darkman.
I believe in one of my when I saw one of the times I saw Darkman, he wasn't just fully black. I think he was like wearing. How do I describe it? It's like a t-shirt, but it was like really tight.
Okay.
Like just a t-shirt that was really tight, and it had nothing on it, and it was fully black. So the only reason I could see it it was a t-shirt because of the outline.
The outline of the sleeves.
Yeah. Okay.
He was pointing to his sleeves. That's the only reason that he knew that the guy had a t-shirt on, or Darkman, whoever it was. Okay.
Interesting.
Thanks, hon.
This was very interesting. Thank you for the questions.
Yeah. Future YouTube star. Hi, Sam and Rudy. It's always been a pleasure watching you guys. Thank you both. Polish clairvoyant Kay Jakowski is posting videos on YouTube and in Polish, where he is focusing on photos of living world politicians and trying to read their thoughts. He is only talking about possible future political actions. Are there any repercussions for the soul for such action of reading someone's mind without their consent, or is it frowned upon?
Oh my gosh, I hope it's not. I hope there's not repercussions for reading minds without permission, because it is from somebody who's done it. I don't do it on purpose, and that was one of the things that happened to me a lot, where I got called out on appointments with clients, is I was reading their minds, but I wasn't doing it on purpose. It's just, this is a very natural thing that happens to us. So now he seems to be conjuring. So that's kind of different. So I'm going to change the question a bit, saying, are there repercussions for conjuring? No, I don't think so. As long as you're not doing anything bad, as long as you're working towards the good of humanity. Light does things that ends up, helping individuals, be better and have a better life and experience and understanding of the way things are. the darkness is very obvious in their tricks and their ideas. And as long as you follow the rules, I don't, like don't conjure to gamble.
Yeah. Or don't you're not reading someone's mind so you can get the better of them in a business deal or something. You're not. I think that's it goes to intent, right?
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it would just happen with me naturally, but usually only on the deceptive side.
Okay.
So someone like me would make it very difficult for somebody who is deceptive. And I'm gloves off when it comes to evil. Yeah, I'll do whatever I have to do. It's just like, and that's what makes them all back off when they find out that you're just as ready to be, down and dirty with them. It's like, how can you say that? It's just like, listen, man, you're the one who threw yourself at me. You threw it on my doorstep, and that's what I saw, and I'm sharing it with you. So now we're all going to watch and see if it comes true, because now you've turned it into a game. And I'm sorry, now you're the focus of it. And that was really scary stuff. And you impose that on me. And I already warned people, I told you, when you throw yourself at me, I am seeing the worst thing that will ever happen to you. And you might think there are rules that I can't say what that is, but I can. If you throw it on my doorstep, I'm not fooling around. I got 2 years left. I don't want anyone messing with me. And I don't, and you know what? And I don't understand how you can spend every single day trying to make things better for people. And you have people coming at you from angles trying to make trouble for you, but it's evil, right? So when you let them know that you'll just turn them into the game, just like that guy, as soon as I said wildebeest, I never heard anything from that guy harassing me ever again. He was like, zip it.
Oh, yeah.
Right. That's what I thought. That's great. Because I know what that's all about. You knew immediately you were gonna like, ooh, okay, she is for real. I better get I better get my meanness focused on another target, because
and they come out of the woodwork at the YouTube live streams. That's why we like this Patreon group.
Yeah, absolutely. There's none here. No problems.
All right. Cryptomet says, hi, Sam and Rudy. Are we able to reincarnate into a life form on another planet and in another universe? Not sure if you've answered this before, but thanks both for all you do.
Yes, you can. You can reincarnate into another life form on another planet.
Oh, cool. You can be one of those things on Mars that we saw last week or last meetup.
Yeah, it's very interesting, actually, the options that we have available to us.
Raymond says, a lot of Roman coins have been found on the east coast of the U.S. Does this suggest that they were here a long time ago, but history forgot to acknowledge them, or perhaps they could have not returned? Thanks.
No, they were just stolen once, and then they ended up, I don't know if it was like a boat wreck, or they ended up getting distributed, and that's why you find so many of them in the U.S. And, of course, people buried them too, like from years ago. So, I mean, people stole stuff in the 1800s that belonged to the Roman Empire that was gold, and they got money for it. And then somebody in the colonies who bought it, they're like, oh, but we found them in the ground. Well, that's because some guy did the same thing you did with your gold, buried it.
That's right. Yeah. All right. Ziggy writes, hello, Sam and Rudy. With knowings of ancient secrets being disclosed in the not so distant future, are those disclosures from ancient archaeological finds from prehistoric people, the Denisovian technology theories, or the mysterious dendrobulb image? And what ancient Egyptian technology it could signify and found through archaeological digs? Are they simply relics obtained through alien spacecraft crash landings passing between realms? So when we're going to see these stuff coming out, Sam, when there's some of these well-known things, are they ancient technology, or are they from extraterrestrials?
Well, they're from extraterrestrials, and then they were used and developed by ancient people, but not a lot of them. Okay. And then it fell into and then it disappeared with, let's say, for example, if Pompeii was one of the only places, because it's not like the world today where stuff spreads like wildfire. I mean, people got from town to town by donkey.
Yeah.
Or they just straight out walked. That was not everybody had an animal that they could ride to the next town. A lot of people just walked, so there were no buses or airplanes or
no internet.
And the other thing too is that if you had technology, you just didn't want to share it because everybody was so basic and brutal. that, here in the world now, you want to share it because it just makes everybody more independent. You can work together, blah, blah, blah. But like that many years ago where everybody was so rudimentary, you had to be careful with that. You couldn't share that technology easily.
Yeah.
So there was the leakage issue, which wouldn't happen because things moved by foot or a donkey, and then you also had the fear factor of if we gave this to our neighbors 1,000 miles away, which is the next big culture that we could potentially be in war with if we have stuff that they want and they have a reputation for just coming and taking it. And so that's another reason why you would keep the technology to yourself. So I think we're going to find a lot. I think that a lot of stuff has already been found and it's been hidden. So what you're going to find is not so much new archaeological discoveries, but the fact that they knew about them and have discovered stuff over the last 40 years and it's been hidden.
Okay.
Now it's going to be released. Not saying there's not going to be any new stuff. It's just going to be that finally there's going to be some airplay for these discoveries, whereas before they were hidden.
Okay. Cat M writes, the other day I pulled up behind a car that was stopped at a stop sign at an intersection and saw what I think most people would describe as a ghost. It was a woman dressed in a white flowering dress crossing the street at the crosswalk. My view of her was not highly detailed. What was this? Was this someone who hadn't crossed over but was living in the in-between realm? I drove on saying to myself, that was interesting. Thanks for your thoughts on this. Do you think Cat M saw a ghost? I
don't know. I don't have anything on that.
Okay.
It's the second one. I got nothing.
Sorry, Canada, we can't win them all. YS64 writes, hi, Sam and Rudy. I'm on the run, so I'll listen later. The question, Uncle Cliff is looking for 1 or 2 metals that will not have resistance to magnetic fields. In fact, they'll have slippery properties, as he calls them. They enhance or propel in momentum. He theorizes that these metals will be needed for mag drives like IFO propulsion. Sam, do you get any information on what metals or mix of metals are needed to achieve this? Let's get on to the Jetson cars. Much love, Waya.
Well, that's a really great question. What came up during you reading that question was the word Antarctica. So there has been a lot of fuss about Antarctica, and I said that there was discovery of some new minerals and things like that were not found elsewhere on the planet, and that may be the answer to the question, Antarctica.
So maybe not the ancient technology in Antarctica, but actually some new minerals. That's interesting.
I didn't think there was an ancient technology. I think there's minerals, and I think that there are lakes underneath in the caves that you could have a city there.
Okay.
With 70-degree weather. You'd never have the sunshine. I mean, you'd be living in a cave. But anyways, my point there is that the conditions created a mineral that is not in the rest of the world.
Oh, okay. The magnetic makeup. Interesting. Cat Lady says, what about feeling like someone is watching you and seeing shadows in your peripheral vision, then look straight and nothing's there? Is that a way some people can see ghosts? Do you think sometimes we can see them off through our peripheral?
Well, I mean, that's just part of being a medium. Okay. You see them in I still see them in my peripheral vision, but I don't count that. It's the straight on stuff that's, I'm like, don't do that. I think I told you guys the last time that seriously happened. I did have it happen like last week during a reading though. And I was like, I didn't much care for that. And they did it a couple of times during the reading as well. They just stuck their head through the door and I was like, and it's right on the top sort of on my computer so I could like see. And I was like, because I was doing a reading, it was distracting, right? And then I felt they were attracted. I thought that they were attached to the next person, but they weren't. So it was just somebody passing through. Like, I don't know everything, right? Sometimes I have to just, let's just wait and see.
Like, what's going on over there?
They sort of stuck their head through and then back in. And I'm like, what are you doing here? Like, you're for the next reading? Like, just, I'm busy, right? Because I'm talking to somebody and I know they're not attached to them, right? So it just annoyed me a bit that somebody wasn't, and I just thought it was a personality that sometimes people don't like to take their turn. So, but the thing is that I don't count myself as like seeing dead people because I did turn that off. And for the most part, I mean, you can't do what I do and like never see them, but you try to keep it to the mind's eye in the same way that I'll keep it to clear audience and not actual audible stuff. Because to actually hear, like if you're laying in bed at night and you're trying to go to sleep and you actually hear somebody like physically whisper in your ear some information, I don't care who you are, medium or not, you're going to go, what the heck? What the? Stop it. I'm trying to sleep. I don't want some man's voice unless it's my husband, right? I want random dudes, blah, blah, blah in my ear, right? So anyways, my whole point with that is I think it's important to make sure that when you start working in the realm, that you make it clear that you live in the 3D realm. And even though you can wander in other realms, you don't want them pushing in on your realm.
Yeah. Okay. Christine Lahoda's your second question. I'll just kind of paraphrase. What's the deal with dogs not liking people? Are they able to sense something about a person, like that they're evil? Like sometimes dogs just don't like people?
Well, many times dogs can sense. I would say most times they can sense it, but that I'm going to caution people and say, if let's say, for example, my puppy Bronx were to growl at some man who came in, that doesn't mean he's bad. It just means that maybe he's coming up on her too quickly.
Okay.
Right. But if for example, my older dog Tank, he's like 7.5 and he knows people. If he were to growl at some man who came up on him too quickly, same reason.
Yeah.
But if after a while he never warmed up to that man,
Okay.
if I'm like, let's say showing somebody a property or whatever and just Tank, even when the guy after, I've said, oh, just give him a treat here. Because that's what I will do. If let's say I'm going to have someone around me for a bit, because maybe I have to show them something, but I'm trying to teach my dog how to behave himself and be like, some untrained animal around other people. He needs to follow commands. So I just get the person to give him a treat because then the person becomes good guy. So short of making aggressive action towards me, my dogs would never do anything because they're like, oh, good person giving me treats, right? I mean, that will change in an instant if they were to try to aggressively approach me. The dogs immediately would go into protection mode. So you're not turning that off by giving them treats. Because I know a lot of people, especially if you suffer from anxiety, you would think about that. Oh, well, I can't do that because then, the dogs won't protect me anymore. It's like, no, the dogs will protect you. They're not going to let you get hurt. But anyways, I do believe that if after my older one has been given treats, if he still doesn't warm up to that person, and I've been like, oh, it's okay and stuff. If he doesn't, then that person is probably got some bad mojo going on.
Yeah. Okay. We'll skip through a couple of the last questions. We've got about 3 or 4 left. Marlon writes, this is a kind of a multiple question, but what happens if you see spiritual numbers all the times, like 1111? Other people say you're a star seed and the universe is trying to communicate. Does this mean that you have medium powers that are untapped and need to be worked on? So I think we've talked about seeing these recurring numbers before. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, I'm not somebody who's studied in numbers. I mentioned before that I do think there's something to them, that more than them really having meaning, they are a way for your tribe to send you a wink from the universe. And they do get a big kick out of this. This is a really big part of it.
Yeah.
So, but in regards to this whole star seed stuff, I do feel that there's been a lot of fleecing going on through the internet. It's been a great opportunity for people who like to make up stories and pretend that they're like me. But they just make up stories. Oh, you're a starseed. Oh, the things that, and I hear it when people are talking to me who have been sucked into believing this kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a shame because this person was just making it up to make money. And they literally made like hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars by making something up that caught on. And I think for a lot of them, you would find and if you have somebody that you're following, that you've sent money to, and who you bought a book, who has like some of this crazy stuff that I'm like hell to the no on, and you're like, Well, I don't really know if Sam's right on this one or not, because I can be wrong. I'm not, Miss Know-It-All, that's for sure. I'm learning a
But
lot from you guys, but I get feelings about stuff, and I'm telling you right now that 95% of the people who who ride in my lane are like,
yeah.
no, they're frauds.
And apply a little bit of logic and a little bit of personal discernment, and I think that'll go a lot farther than just believing anything someone says.
You'll find that a lot of these other people have tried to reinvent themselves with other things that didn't work out as well. So if you can find out like what their real name is, and I mean, I use a different name than what I operate in my previous life, just because I don't want any of those people, especially where I oversaw a client base of like 50,000. And what do you think is going to happen as soon as somebody finds out that I can do this? What do you think? I wanted my channel to be filled with people from all over the world who are drawn here, right? Not people who are like, oh, everything she touches turns to gold. Oh, who already knew me from before. I don't want that. I want who the people on the other side are sending. And I know how just natural selection can interfere with things. Like if you don't, go about it properly. And some of my predictions have been pretty crazy and right on. And we do actually have a really large Lebanese community where I live. So if I had my name out there and stuff and that video had hit, then I would have already been well known right from that. So like I said, there's a lot of things in play here as far as the group that we have working together that I really feel like it's really a special group of people. We got a lot of newbies too that I'm like, yay.
Yeah. And anything specific for Hamburg, Germany, when kind of the unrest starts in Europe?
Well, Hamburg is kind of a larger place in Germany, and I would avoid those places. I think people who've like sold their homes and are renting right now, I think that's really the smart thing to do. I mean, listen, I suck on my timelines, and I don't, but I don't see things like 40 years ahead. I'm usually like, yeah, that's going to happen like within 5 to 10 years. And one of the things that I picked up when I saw the Cardano prediction, I had shown my prediction about the riots in Paris.
Okay. Yeah,
that's right. The date stamp and everything. So it wasn't that far away from what I was seeing. So it was like the unrest in Europe. I started to see that only just a couple of years ago, just a couple of years ago. So that means it's not too far away from starting to happen now, because I don't see stuff like 10, 20 years away. It's normally, unless I tell you, oh yeah, like I'm really old by then. Like I can actually see that I am just a few years from dying when this happens. I won't say what that is, but like there's a big difference between being in your 50s and being in your 80s.
Yeah. All right. Hillbilly Bear says he saw a dark figure when he was a child. Sam, can kids do anything if this is their experience when they're seeing these entities? Any advice?
So yes, kids can do things, Hillbilly Bear, and I'm sorry for your experience, because you're right. Yeah, I completely agree that you don't have to be psychic to be the one that gets picked on by this dark entity. And it does happen, and it's just because your house was haunted. My grandparents' house was haunted and had some dark entities in there. And they used to harass me. I mean, as a medium, they harassed me. But I think that people who were not even there's a portal in my house that was built in 1895 that I own, that I don't live in right now because Eric Man showed up. Right, I was like, oh, I'm out of here. I'm doing this mediumship now, and my son, we're gonna be over here instead of there because Dark Man is here. I don't understand when I see these shows and people tell me about they talk about terrible stuff that are happening to them and their children. I'm like, they're like, oh, but we can't afford to leave. I'm like, sell your body.
Yeah, call in winner. Just as you typed that winner, I was thinking the same thing. Some people you can maybe call in someone to fight them that's their specialty, right?
Yeah, but that's not very common. Not a whole lot of people. But my whole, all joking aside, right? I'm just saying that it's a very serious thing when your child is being harassed. So Hillbilly Bear, I know that kind of stuff affects you, into your older years, but it certainly gives you an inside track on the way things really are, because those things really do exist. And if kids do that, have that as their experience, Winter is right. You can call in someone who can help them with it. They can do what do you call it with the smoke?
The sage, and just kind of cleanse. Yeah.
I have some of that actually at the house. So if
Yeah.
they bother me while I'm there, I've threatened to light it up, and nobody's messed with me so far. I'm like, it's right over there. I can light it up. It'd be like gone forever. And then
Yeah, we keep that here too. My wife uses these tuning forks to clear the room too, which seems to work pretty good. All right, last two questions. The other ones are kind of personal. So Jackie S. writes, Sam, when we reincarnate, do we choose to be around the same people, like family, friends, or spouses we were with in a previous life, or do we choose an entirely new group of people to have human experience with?
Okay, so we are all part of Source and we're all one, but we are broken down into tribes within Source, right? And it's through these tribes, this is where we learn our lessons.
Okay.
So I do believe that we when we reincarnate, though, we don't know what we're reincarnating. A lot of people make up these stories, and I'm sorry if somebody that we know or care about or people in the group, if you believe this, but I do not believe this to be true. And that is the fact that you sit down and make your life's plan ahead of time. You don't even know what cards are going to be dealt to you, right? I talked about that there's 5 different things that are sort of dealt to you, but you don't even know what they are. You're going to take a total and complete chance when you're coming back. They don't tell you nothing, or you don't know anything. That's all part of the challenge. And then when you get here, you don't remember who you really are. That's part of the challenge, is that with me, they've totally cheated by showing me all this stuff, but it's because in return, the only reason why I know this is that I must serve humanity with this gift. I must not serve myself. That's why I do not get the lottery numbers.
Yeah.
I am going to try again next week, though, just for fun.
It's kind of like going to an improv class with a bunch of your friends. You all show up together, but you don't know what roles you're going to play.
You got it. So that's the way it is. That's a really great question, Jackie S. And thank you so much. I think we might have had that question a really long time ago. But, oh my gosh, we've got so many new people now. And you give me an opportunity to sort of re-examine that and maybe glean more information now that I'm more experienced running back and forth between, because that's what I love about getting this information for you guys, is that I'm running back and forth from here to the other side, and I'm getting other information that satisfies my curiosity as well. And I didn't realize how much until recently.
Yeah. So right at the half hour, so let's end it with Lexi's question. And she says, when you meet someone new and take an instant dislike to them or them to you, is that intuition? I found when I circled back to people I thought I did not initially like or felt their dislike for me, I have been surprised how many times I ended up really connecting with this person on a deeper level when the first impression was dislike. What's up with this?
Well, sometimes it's just, how they say, if someone's too much like you, you have this immediate dislike for them. So, and it just gives to show you the truth that sometimes you can just, set off on the wrong foot.
Yeah.
Because maybe you're off, maybe they're off. But again, I don't believe in, giving people the benefit of the doubt. If people have done egregious things and show poor character, that in itself, there's no benefit of the doubt in that. But, if somebody who's normally, like your sister, for example, really likes this person, hangs out with them, they're good friend from work, and you're meeting them for lunch, and you and this person, set off on the wrong foot, that sort of thing can happen at any point, just because I'm sure that I could say things to people that would set me off on the wrong foot with them. Because like I said, we don't all agree or believe in the same thing. And just because I'm Samantha Jane, psychic medium, I don't think I know it all and that people should believe everything I believe, because I'm still learning as well. So that's cool. And I think it's important that, there's people that we're hanging out with who are not cookie cutter carbon copies of us, because personally, I would find that boring.
Yeah. All right. Well, Sam, thank you for the extended blab tonight. We really appreciate it. And we'll look forward to tomorrow's meetup with Moo. All right. Thanks, Sam. And thanks, Dakota, for his answers too.
Yeah. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out. And
right.
bye for now. I will see a lot of you tomorrow. And Mounty's here better and better. Talk to you later.